Hello and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Balagbobo. Today we will be going to the north, and this time around our focus is in Plateau State, the lingering insecurity situation in the state. Let's give you a rundown of our talking points. Genocidal, those are some of the words coming in from Governor Mufwang, describing the April 2nd killings. We'll talk about the calls for state of emergency and tackling the reasons behind the killings. And of course, we'll proffer solutions. Our guest in-house in the studio is Mr. Samuel Dan Auta Kiashik, who is a politician, 2019 governorship candidate of the All Blending Party, now a PDP chieftain in Plateau State. Many thanks for being with you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me here.
The pleasure is mine.
Yeah.
So let's get straight to the details of the conversation. Now, our last week report swept across the media about Fulani Islamists' attack on Christian communities in Boko's Plateau State. The losses appear to be even worse than initially feared. Over 100 killed, including women and children. Over 200 houses were also touched. The attack lasted more than 3 hours in broad daylight, and the devastated community is dealing with the aftermath while search and rescue efforts continue. Bandits have killed at least 10 people in a series of violent attacks carried out on last week Wednesday on 5 communities in the same Boko's local government area of Plateau State. And the latest attacks come just 6 days after a similar attack occurred in Ruwi community during a wake-keeping ceremony where 10 people were also killed and 3 others sustained injuries. Now, the governor's reaction has, of course, described the recent wave of violence and killings in parts of the state as acts of coordinated crime, asserting that the attacks are the handiwork of conflict merchants rather than the result of farmer-heather clashes. He also said terrorist Fulanis have taken over more than 64 communities in Plateau State. He also said when the invading Fulanis kill indigents, they occupy their communities and rename it. And in a significant move aimed at addressing these security concerns, Governor Mufwang has formally inaugurated the Plateau State Inter-Religious Advisory Council, the prominent religious and traditional leaders who are entrusted with the critical task of fostering unity, tolerance, and social cohesion across the state. And a quite revealing reaction, just almost in line with what the governor has said during a live interview with the Rise News. Former Minister of Sports, Youth and Development, Solomon Dalong, said the violence, I'm reading his words, isn't a farmer-heather conflict, it's terrorism. And these groups have an enclave similar to those in the Northeast where they steal cattle, seize land, and establish parallel government in the bush. Now, let's look at what the security operatives are doing at the moment. In response to the deeply troubling series of attacks that has plagued some of these communities since March 28, 2025, the IGP of Police, Kayode Adeolu Egbetokun, has ordered the immediate and comprehensive deployment of police tactical assets to the affected areas of the state. Now, it's just been a roller coaster. We'll have a graphic that will show you a timeline of some of the killings in Plateau State, and this is coming from the Plateau Peace Building Agency that has archived some of the violent incidents from 1994 to 2024, and data for the subsequent years were gathered also from media reports. So we'll let a slide play for quite a while so that you can have a grasp of some of the reoccurring insecurity situation in just Plateau State, which tends to linger from, religious and also inter-community clash and also farmer-heather crisis. These are just some of the records that we have been able to pile up for you and to help us establish a very, very significant conversation. Once again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, from what I've heard, you've been shy away from the media interview since the last elections.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that insecurity is such a concerning issue.
Very well.
That is why, I know you've turned down a lot of interviews. Thank you so much for being with us on the show today.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
So what is your assessment? You heard the former Minister of Sports and Development, Solomon Dalong, said that this is not just farmer-heathers clashes, and the governor also reiterating that rhetoric. What is your own assessment of the situation?
So first of all, you want to look at the historical background of crisis on the plateau. It goes down to since when the local government of Jos North was created by the IBB government, and there's a Hausa settlement in Jos North, which does not necessarily say they are the majority, in Just Not. I just won't tell you, recent statistics from the INEC data collected will tell you clearly that the Hausa people are a minority in terms of population in Just Not. So I give you an example of the last, in 2018 INEC registration exercise, or you want to take it back to 2014 INEC registration exercise. Just Not registered about from the 17 local governments on the plateau, just not registered the highest number of voters registered, right? And it came up with about 1.3 million, if I remember this data correctly, but it's the highest in the state, followed by just South local government. Then you go to the central and you talk about Mangu local government, in order of priority, which of course contradicts the fact that voters are more settled in the rural areas than you have in the urban areas. So that data just canceled that. You have more people who go to the polling units who are registered within the urban centers, much more than those who are settled in the rural area. Now, the statistics also say that Just Not has about 20 political wards. And the House of People control just about 6 of those political wards. That tells you categorically that they are not the majority in Just Not local government.
So would you say that there is this move by those Fulani communities to want to take up more space?
So there's a Hausa community, there's a Fulani community. Those days they're all called the House of Fulani community because of intermarriage, because of religious affiliation and what have you. But today there are a lot of movement who are saying, especially from the northwest, who are saying we are not Fulanis, we are Hausa people, and don't call us Hausa Fulani people. So, but who are those in the bush? Those who are in the bush, who are carrying arms, whose animals go into people's farm and destroy their crops, are the Fulanis people. So take the Hausa people out of this, first of all, because I do not think in this instance that they are a problem. The problematic people are the Fulani headsmen. And right now, by their act and activities and the act of land grabbing, they are terrorists. There's no two ways about this. So I just want to lend my voice to the governor, lend my voice to the former minister of Youth, Solomon Dalung, who said this is beyond act of terrorism. It takes a terrorist to carry out an act of terrorism. So what that simply says is that within the boundaries of Plateau State, which is in the middle belt of Nigeria or the north central part of Nigeria, there are terrorists who are living with us, who are killing our people innocently. Just to also give you a background of the geographical topographical nature of Plateau, which is a major attraction to this headsman turned terrorists, right? Plateau is located on the highest altitude in West Africa. Plateau has a very beautiful landscape, has a very lush green areas, especially in this area of Bokos you're talking about, Central Plateau. You could see a 15 to 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers vast space of land, just green. The grasses there are feed, very lovely for the cows to eat. Now, with what they call the climate change and what is happening, there's a migration from the northeast and wherever they're coming from. But let's assume there's a migration because of climate change. There are no longer grasses for these cows to eat. When you come into a new settlement, should you kill the people to grab their land and take it from them? Is that the way to go about finding a living for yourself? The summary of what I'm trying to say is the fact that the Fulani people in the bushes of Plateau, not even in the bushes, Plateau doesn't even really have bushes, in the communities and the boundaries of Plateau State are terrorists. They are armed to the teeth. They are much more armed than the police, than our local vigilantes, and even
so are you saying
much
this
more than the
is
military.
Beyond the capacity of the governor, because this has lingered for so long?
And
from that interview that he granted, he appeared helpless concerning the situation, because I'm aware of military interventions in Plateau State. And even though the IGP of police has also talked about reinforcements, including the chief of army staff. So with all of these measures, why are we not seeing
it is not beyond the capacity of the governor, and I'm going to tell you that leadership is about will. Leadership is about capacity. Leadership it's partly about understanding the problem, bringing design thinking into play. As a matter of fact, when you go to the West, when leaders are overwhelmed, what do? They resign. I'm not able to protect my people, so I'll resign. But in the case of Plateau, as a matter of fact, this case is not isolated. The tragedy that happened on the 2nd of April in Bokos local government is not isolated. It is partly a series of attacks that have been coming incessantly. And let me tell you something that's going to be funny here. The fact that, if you remember, in December 2023, just about Christmas, over 115 people were killed in the same Bokos local government. Now, you want to ask the state or the governor, who is the chief security officer of the state, and the task force, around him, what were the lessons learned? What did we see? Did we come to the table and sit down and analyze the problem?
I mean,
did we trace the path of the people?
I could recall the meeting that the governors had with the president at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
And one of the Governor Muswang's talking points was that, you can see that 2024 we didn't have a repeat of what happened. So, we were like thinking that, something has been put in place, but all of a sudden, just close to the rainy season, because at this particular time of the year, you would expect farmers to go to the farm.
Back to the farm, of course.
So
now persistent insecurity simply tells you the failure of government apparatus to protect the people. It could be whether there's a collaboration between the state and the federal government and then the task force on the plateau. Once there is a persistent killing, the killings have not been abated. It simply means that the security measures that have been put in place have failed. Now, so let me come to a point where almost everybody thinks this is controversial. The terrorist does not understand any language other than his own language. The criminal does not understand the language that is spoken in soft tones. Listen, when I was contesting for the governorship in 2019, I have one sentence security summary, and it was simply kill and be killed. If you touch anybody on the plateau, we will look for you.
But there
we
are
will
some
kill
who call
you.
that jungle justice.
That's not jungle justice.
If you look at what
No. I disagree. I totally disagree with that.
Edo State,
yes.
We're seeing tensions.
Have we not have cases of people? Listen, my brother. Have we not heard people who have been killed in the bushes of Edo State? Have we not heard of women and children being killed in their, in cold blood? What do we call that?
From what you're saying,
there is no accountability. Listen to me, sir. When the people, this is like what's happening in America. When you talk about the gun rule control, the Democrats are saying take the guns from people, and the Republicans say no, take the guns first of all from the bad guys. When you take the guns from the bad guys, then you can take the guns from the good people. As far as I'm concerned on this matter, the state governor should arm his people. Arm his people. Katsina State Governor has said that. Several, like 2-3, governors have said that. Different emirs around, the north are coming up to say, we are going to arm our people. See, the terrorist does not understand any language other than we're going to hunt you. We're going to look for you. And guess what? But Plateau people know where these guys are.
When you look back at the graphics and at some of the killings,
yes,
we've seen retaliatory attacks, both from the Islamic, Muslim community and also Christian communities.
Yes.
We've seen retaliatory attacks. So in that kind of situation, do you think that will root out the problem totally?
When a criminal is coming to your house with a gun and he knows you have a gun, he will think twice about it. Exactly. And this is why and I come back to America again. This is why when people are attacked in their homes and they bring out their own arms and shoot back and eventually kill the criminal, is self-defense. There will always be criminals. Criminals will always exist. They will live among us. There are human beings that will not agree to work hard. They want to put their eyes on some other people's hard earning. How do you deal with them? Now, again, this is a display of the federal government's inability, lack of capacity to handle security matters, in Nigeria. It's happening everywhere. Today, we have over 112 million people in Nigeria. The statistics are there. People are living below the poverty rating of $1.5, per day. We are no longer farming. The farming we're experiencing right now in the country is largely because our farmers can't go to the farm and farm, because there are terrorists all around their farms. Are we trying to say we don't have Air Force? Are we trying to say we don't have, you know, the full trained army that will go on the ground and look for these guys, look stay alive and kill them?
In my research, I've come to discover there are a lot of people who fault the federal structure of security.
Yes.
Because you've made reference to the United States.
Yes.
And there's some who argue that this mechanism where the federal government takes charge of this controls the security operatives. You look at the police force.
Yes.
There's over 300,000 policemen, and almost 100,000 plus of them are attached to VIPs.
Yes.
And not really working with the community.
One of the problems, actually.
How do we bridge that gap in terms of
this?
what the federal government?
This is why we have been advocating for state police. What is wrong in setting up a state police? What is wrong in one setting, just like Tinubu had the national anthem bill to pass in one day and the national anthem was changed? What is wrong in having the act of the state police establishment to pass in one day and tell every state governor, arm your men to fight any attack, any internal security within the state? If that is not done, it tells you there's something fishy. It also tells you that the leader lacks the capacity to protect the people. Leadership, again, I repeat, is not, so look, it's beyond being called the president, it's beyond being called the governor, it's beyond occupying any kind of positions. As a matter of fact, like we see these days in our political environment, leadership is beyond rhetorics. It's beyond coming to use the right words to condemn the killers. Leadership is about practical solutions to the need of the people. Leadership is about empathy. Listen, I cannot watch as a father anybody come into my house and kill my children. Quote me, read my lips, I will fight and kill him. It's like the lion who has his cubs around and the hyenas are coming around to kill or to take those cubs away. A good father will make sure those hyenas are killed or driven away. If any leader lacks to give this picture to his people, he lacks capacity. Don't wait for federal government. Don't wait for... A lot of the states we have right now are not waiting for federal government. The late Akeredolu set up Amotekun. And check out, yes, in the Southwest. Check out what's happening right now. The security lapses in the Southwest has drastically reduced. Because one man took a bold step and said, to hell with the federal government. If they're not going to let that do, we need to protect our people. Can the governors in the North Central and the Middle Belt come up to that level and say, regardless of what the government is saying, we're setting up this set of young people. We're going to arm them, not secretly. I'm talking about arming them to protect themselves. And the defense on that is simply to the federal government. If you can take away the illegal guns these Fulani people are carrying to attack our people, then we have no right to arm anybody to protect themselves. But so long as the Fulani people in the bushes are carrying guns, we're going to give our own people illegal guns to protect themselves. Now, call it that.
Now, we've seen calls for a state of emergency in Plateau State.
Where? No, there's no need for that. There's no justification for that.
State. No, those who are making this claim are saying that, okay, Mr. President, if you feel that things are about to get out of hand in River State and you call the state of emergency, why not do the same in Plateau State?
Now, let me tell you something that's happening. There's a complicity of certain things that are happening on the Plateau, and then maybe this is the right moment to talk about it. There are vested interests in the activities of Plateau State in the interest of the Fulani people. There's no doubt about that. There may not be evidence to show you this,
so
but I'm telling you,
this is double standard.
Let me land. Double standard from the federal government. Double standard. In cases that, see, many years in the past, we've had, you know, Fulani people caught, arrested with the guns, arrested, and in the act of terrorism, they were taken to Abuja and they were released. Who released them? At the federal level, we have had terrorists during Buhari's regime. We've had terrorists arrested, terrorists who killed men and women who signed the oath to protect this country. We had them recruited back into the Nigerian army or given jobs to after the menaces they have caused to this nation. Is that fair to those that have been killed? Is that fair to those that have signed the oath to protect their country, to protect the people of this nation? The same thing I am saying here. Until we find that leadership that is bold enough to cause the chaos, to cause to steer the thinking cap of our leaders, you see, in this part of the world, we're not going to let this happen again. In this part of Nigeria, we're not going to let this happen again. Let my people stand and protect themselves. And I think if there's anything that Governor Mutfwang needs to say this time around, is to ask the Plateau people to protect themselves and help them like Otom did, and help them to protect themselves. Because there's an undue advantage. Somebody coming to you, number one, in your sleep. Number two, you're not armed, right? And the next thing you heard is gunshots. Your doors are flung open, and it's bullets that visit you, or that greets you. And the next thing you see yourself in heaven, you're gone. Wherever you're gone, it's unfair. Let me tell you one thing that's going to shock you, just to let you know that the security operators on the Plateau know where these guys are. And that's why I believe partly with what the governor is saying, that there's a complicity. There is
he used the word sponsorship.
Sponsorship, fantastic. Yeah, so point of correction.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
So who is
100%.
sponsoring, from what you know?
It's the same question that was asked the chief of defense staff was asked. Who is sponsoring the Boko Haram people? Until we have evidence to show, that's when we're able to pinpoint and say X, Y, Z is a sponsor. But right now, a cow cannot buy you the kind of machine guns these guys are using. That simply tells you that they are being sponsored, just like the Boko Harams were being sponsored. Recent documents have been, since Trump came up, revealed that USAID has been sponsoring Boko Haram, in Nigeria to destabilize government. Could the terrorists on the Plateau be a spillover of the Boko Haram due to what the Nigerian military men have done, in Borno? Could this be a spillover movement from Borno to Plateau right now, trying to find a living? By the way, as according to my record, sometimes around 2019, it was actually about 100 villages sacked on the Plateau, not just 64. Over 100 villages sacked. And like the governor said, these villages are sacked, then the sackers occupy and rename
those communities.
There's one I always remember called Mahanga, but right now...
the state government has no jurisdiction over the communities?
They do, but this is what I'm telling you, my brother. Leadership. If you don't have the capacity to protect the people to a point where they know you can give your life for it, don't go into that position of leadership. And that's what is basically lacking in Nigeria today. Our leaders are occupying leadership positions where they lack the will to protect the people. What is the will? We can't take this anymore. What are we going to do? Arm the people. And I repeat it again. Arm the people. Why should you arm the people? Because the criminal is not living too far. It is the federal government's responsibility to tackle the criminal. We have science and tech in this age. We've talked about drones. We've talked about telecoms. Recently, for about 3-4 years ago, we were forced in this country to go and register our phone numbers with the Ministry of Information. I can't remember. Is it NDIC now or something? Everybody has his phone registered. Where are those calls coming from? Can we comb the calls within Bokos? Can we do an aerial security calls check within Bokos and know where are calls coming from? What are those guys saying? There's a complicity. But then I repeat again, the leadership of the state needs the capacity to vehemently reject that and accuse the government, the federal government, of failing to fulfill her national responsibility of protecting the lives of the people. And if they are not able to, then the people should protect themselves.
Now, let's talk about your party. Now, you're a PDP chieftain, and you also ran with the governor for the primaries. So what was your party doing to kind of save the situation? Because, we're living in a political climate where there is so much pressure on the APC government. And, in the words of Atiku Abubakar, there is a purported, plot to clamp down on opposition. So what does the PDP in your state do to assuage the situation? Okay,
so let me just bring some point of corrections right now. And since I've been a PDP member right from when I started voting, right? I ran for election in 2019, lost the election at the poll, but not under the PDP, party, but under the All Blending Party. And thereafter, I left politics. I joined the PDP for love for the people, but then I left politics. As it is right now, I am talking not as a politician, but as a businessman who is concerned about the happenings on the Plateau. But let me tell you something. Political parties in Nigeria lack ideologies. Political parties in Nigeria lack men with willpower. Political parties in Nigeria lack patriotic citizens. Political parties in Nigeria lack the men and women who are able, who are armed with national patriotism to fight for this nation. But who are the people you find in political parties today, including PDP, the APC? Just name those parties who are making noise right now. They are all bandits and criminals who are hungry. They are pocket sense oriented. They are not mentally oriented to protect the people, to drive development in Nigeria. These are people who are looking for the next money to sustain their dirty lifestyle. And I see this any day, anytime, anywhere. And that's the reason why, with all the changes every year, this is 25 years into democracy in Nigeria, Nigeria is still grappling with poverty. Nigeria is still grappling with insecurity. Nigeria is still grappling with power supply. Nigeria is still grappling with production. You know, Peter Obi has always said it. Nigeria is not a productive nation. It's a consuming nation. And to support his saying is the fact that some years ago, the Nigerian Port Authority told Nigerians, told us, that over 75% of the cargo ships that bring imported goods to Nigeria return empty. Why? We are not a producing nation. We bring up policies without strategies to execute them. We have fantastic policies on paper, but we don't have men who are built up with the strategic mind and thinking to execute this strategy. Let me tell you, my brother, more than 95%, and quote me verbatim, more than 95% of the men we find in our political system today, including our governors, are illiterate of the 21st century. And this is defined by Alvin Toffler in sometimes in the 90s. He said the illiterates of the 21st century are those who will not be able to read or write, but they are those who will not be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn. These guys are not coming with anything new. They are refusing. As a matter of fact, the average Nigerian politician is afraid to meet an intelligent person. So that's one of the problems we have. So we really need to address the matters just the way they are. Leadership calls a spade a spade. We don't have to be politically correct on these matters, please.
Let's still go to your state now. When you
Yes.
look at the past leaders who have ruled the state, who
Yes.
would you say had a better firm grip on the insecurity situation?
There's this.
Where did the departure come from?
We have had people who've done their best, yes. Dari had a lot of issues. I mean, started openly during his time when we have the 2001 famous crisis that took a lot of lives. Properties worth millions and billions were lost, including the main market. The problem is, and I still tell you, the problem is we have men who found themselves in position of power without ready. They're not ready for it. Yes, they're actually not ready for it. So people just think that leadership is just occupying a position. So if I'm going to tell you, I may not give you the analysis of where it failed, but I can tell you that these men found themselves in the position that they lack the capacity to steer the wheel. It's very simple. Very simple. Men who have capacity will produce results. So from 1999 to 19, if you ask me about security matters, from 1999 to this moment on the plateau, there's none of them who has scored a D. They've all failed. They have all failed in terms of handling the security matters on the plateau. By the way, let me just tell you, it may interest you to know that Plateau State is one of the poorest states in Nigeria. It simply tells you that the people are averagely poor. With a conservative population of over 5 to 6 million, people, but then we are one of the poor states in this country. What are we doing about that yet? Do you get? And this makes it easy. When the people are poor, they're not thinking about protecting themselves. First of all, they are thinking about the food, their daily bread, and they become easy victims of praise to those who are eyeing their land. So the terrorists on the plateau are there for land grabbing. They want to grab the land. And like the governor has said, they have grabbed the land. But you see, I have a problem with leadership. They have under his, but not just under him, they have grabbed lands under their his watch. They have grabbed lands under, in fact, more lands were taken during the time of Babajang than in Lalong's time and this current governor. More lands were taken during the regime of an ex-military man as governor on the plateau than we have in the hands of the civilian men. So what does that tell you? Leadership is beyond the title of the governor. There's something you need to do. You have to love your people more than you love the position. We've not had a leader who has loved the people more than he loves the position. All the display of power we have seen, that's a description of our governors. I'm just telling you the truth. It may not be, Governor Mutfwang for now, but all that we have seen on the Plateau, even in Nigeria. By the way, let me not just narrow this down to Plateau. In Nigeria today, we have not seen leaders who have loved the people more than they love the position. That is why no matter what you abuse and call them names, they will not resign.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And
thank you very much.
To have you back in our studios for
further
conversations. Well, there you have it, folks at home. It is the responsibility of the government to protect its people, and we'll continue to monitor developments in the Plateau and, of course, all around Nigeria. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll move to our next set of conversation on the Labour Party lingering leadership crisis. To stay with us. I'm glad to have you back with us in politics now. This time around, we'll move forward with a conversation on the Labour Party leadership crisis. Let's take you through our talking points, a look at the tussle over party leadership and resolving the party crisis. Our guest joins us from Oyo State, Ansley Maragbe, the former national youth leader for Labour Party. Well, before we come to him, the leadership tussle between the Julius Abure-led National Working Committee and the Nenadi Usman Caretaker Committee, backed by Governor Alex Otti and Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 election, Peter Obi, took a dramatic turn on Wednesday following the return of factional leader Lamidi Apapa. Now, Apapa, who had disappeared from the political circles in the past year, announced on Wednesday that he had taken over the leadership of the Labour Party following the release of the certified true copy of last Friday's Supreme Court judgment, which is now pretty clear on who has been suspended, talking about Julius Abure. Now, on Wednesday, Apapa claimed that the Apex Court verdict puts him in pole position to replace Abure, being the most senior national deputy chairman of the party. On Wednesday, also, jubilation erupted among Obi and Otti supporters when the latter announced that they had received the official certified true copy of last Friday's Supreme Court judgment on the party's leadership crisis. While presenting the 48-page CTC before the Labour Party stakeholders' engagement in Abuja, Otti reiterated that the document had put an end to the debate of misinterpretation of the verdict. At the meeting, Peter Obi also said no more factions. Take a listen to what he said.
Labour Party with regards to the leadership, which has now been concluded by the highest court of the land. There's no fashion now after Supreme Court. You don't bring in fashion. There's no fashion. Labour Party is now one. There's no fashion. Labour Party, Supreme Court has said it, and I want the press to help in building this democracy well cherished by accepting the verdict of Supreme Court. Thank you.
Now, shortly after leaving the Transcorp Hotel, the venue for the NEC meeting, Otti led a high-level delegation to the headquarters of the National Electoral Commission in Abuja to discuss recent developments within the party. The governor also presented the certified true copy of the Supreme Court judgment to INEC's acting chairman, Sam Olumekun, and other national commissioners. Let's have a listen to what Governor Otti said at that meeting.
The National Caretaker Committee to proceed with the arrangement of all the congresses leading to the National Convention so that the party will begin to run once more as a registered political party. It's instructive to note that in your website you have Barrister Julius Abure as the chairman of the party, but you do have a block here that says court order. Since there is another court order, we call on you to remove his name. replaced with distinguished Senator Elsa Osman.
Now, reacting to all of this, Abure's camp dismisses the claim of legitimacy by the caretaker committee, saying their supporters were jubilating for nothing. Well, Comrade Anslem joins us right now. Thank you for being with us on the show.
Thank you. My pleasure always.
So I've been speaking with members of Abure's faction, and the Supreme Court seems to be it seems not to be the issue, but the issue now is the Nnewi Congress, which your team is saying is illegal. But what's your basis on that?
For the sake of the general public, for the sake of the facts of the matter, Abure conducted an illegal and unlawful national convention on the 27th of March 2024. And that was because Abure violated the consent judgment terms of settlement. So it are terms of settlement signed between the NSC, the Nigeria Labour Congress, and the Labour Party in 2022. About 6 terms were listed in that agreement. The NSC and the Labour Party signed what is called today as the terms of settlement. So it's an agreement. That agreement had about 6 elements in it. The first element said we needed to set up the board of trustees of the Labour Party. So under that arrangement, the NLC had 4 nominations, from which one of them, SOZ Ejiofor, was ratified as the board of trustees chairman. 2, another term of the agreement said we needed to conduct processes leading to the all-inclusive and expansive national convention. Now, the reason for all of this was because there had to be a harmony between the labor movement that formed the Labour Party and the party itself. Now, under the arrangement, we're supposed to conduct what congresses. The essence of what, you cannot conduct a national convention without congresses.
Now, what does the Labour Party constitution say? Because according to Abure's team, they claim that they don't need to do what congresses at the local level. So what's your take?
You see, there is an expiration date to every lies under the sun. The Labour Party constitution is an open document. It's not hidden. You can read through the constitution. There has never been a provision of the Labour Party constitution that was amended to show that you can start from the top. It sounds so funny for anybody in this world to imagine that the national convention of a political party can be conducted without processes. The idea of a convention is for election. It's not for appointment. So Abure ideally deceived himself and made a fool of himself and all of those who were with him to have imagined that they could appoint themselves into the offices in the National Working Committee. It's not done anywhere in the world. And the only thing that will have amounted to any alteration beyond the constitution was these terms of agreement signed between the Labour Party and the NSC on the 27th of June, 2022. Remember, however, the INEC midwifed the terms of settlement on the 26th of April, 2022. Justice Gabriel Kolawole granted this consent judgment for an out-of-court settlement terms on the 20th of March, 2018. 20 of us were elected from the National Convention in Akwanga, Nasarawa State, on the 10th of June, 2019. Now, so Abure, so those terms of settlement midwife by INEC signed between the parties, NSC and the Labour Party, said, conduct what congresses. Now, it is only when you conduct what congresses that you'll be able to elect party officials that will serve as the World Executive Council. So if you now want to know the composition of the World Executive Council, read through the Labour Party constitution. You have the World Chairman, the World Secretary, the World Youth Leader, the World Woman Leader, the World Leader, all of those positions equivalent of the National Committee listed for the wards. So nobody can come into any of those offices without first conducting congresses. Because when you conduct congresses, people will vie into the respective executive positions at the ward level in an election. Another term said conduct the local government congresses, so that way the party will have valid working committee members for the local government. Similarly, for the state, to have the state executive structure of the party nationwide. Now, when you have done these three congresses, you will now elect delegates. There's going to be delegates election. There are prescriptions. At that level, the party will agree. Maybe we need to elect maybe 10 or 15 delegates for local government. However, then there will be an election where these delegates that will come to the National Convention, in addition to the NEC members. Now, the NEC members of the party are the state chairman and secretaries. We have 36 states in FCT, plus we have 36 states in Nigeria, plus the FCT. So for every state, we have a state chairman for the party and a state secretary. So the state chairman and the state secretary for the 36 states and the FCT are members of the National Executive Council. Now, when you read through the Labour Party constitution, there are members of the National Working Committee. Now, those members are only voted for at the level of the National Convention. And it is all of these delegates that will come from the 36 states and the FCT to participate in that convention that will vote.
Now, according to the Abure faction, there were 15 members from each state that participated at the Benue Congress. So how are you pulling through with this illegality, given the fact that the Supreme Court make reference to the party and the Constitution is part of your party? That document guides all you do in your party.
Abure fooled himself. Abure lied to himself and suddenly believed in his own lies and the bunch of criminals that were with him all the way. To cut this story, the Supreme Court has made it very easy. So the point I'm making to you today is to say there were no congresses. How could Abure have conducted congresses without the participation of the NLC, the TUC, the 36 states, the 774 local government, the 8,815 political wards in Nigeria? I challenge Abure to present INEC in his affidavit of oath. INEC swore an affidavit on oath and challenged Abure in court. In that affidavit of oath, which INEC signed on the 23rd of July, 2024, INEC said, yes, even though they received a notice for convention on the 4th of December, 2023, however, INEC said they did not receive any notice for congresses, for the wards, for the local government, for the state, neither were there delegates election. So those activities invalidated Abure's illegal and voided his so-called convention. So please, I want you to listen to what I'm saying, not Abure. Abure is a criminal, is awaiting prosecution. His criminality bordered on perjury, forgery, and criminal conspiracy that extended to all of these illegalities you are seeing. INEC swore an oath. I want you to listen to me carefully. And I'll give you the document of INEC affidavit of oath, where INEC swore that Labour Party under Abure did not comply with the terms of settlement because there were no congresses. And that you cannot conduct congresses in Nigeria without the processes. So those are the issues that voided Abure's illegal activities. Is that clear now, please?
My question to you, Comrade Anslem, is will INEC go through with the settlement as the Supreme Court already has the jurisdiction, has already posited more of like an advice to your party members to sort out things themselves. So do you think this will pull through with INEC?
I don't want your mind to be fixated on Abure. Like I said, Abure is a criminal. I say it with my full chest. He's awaiting prosecution, criminal prosecution. Abure's criminality surrounds all of the issues you are talking about. So listen to me. And when I talk to you, I will give you facts. I'm talking to the world. I'm not just talking to you. I've repeated, I will say it for the third time. I said, What gave rise to the terms of settlement, which INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, mediated? They midwifed the terms of settlement. INEC mediated those terms on the 26th of April 2022. And the agreement reached that were midwifed by INEC were signed on the 27th of June 2022.
Now, Abure's camp has also said some of the persons with Oti and Obi are not members with the party, and that how can the elected dictate for those in charge of the platform on which they ran in the first place? How do you answer that?
We amount to foolishness. If actually it came from Abure and all of the co-conspirators in his camp, they are all now defunct anyway. So we need not lose sleep over Abure and the criminals he worked with. Now, did Abure forget that all of the names he's mentioning now, Alex Oti, Peter Obi, are the same people who paid monies to the Labour Party, who contested elections on the platform of the party in 2023, who are still valid members of the party? That is one. Two, Abure had no locus to talk to anybody about membership due. The membership due of the party is 100 naira per month, which is 1,200 naira in a year. Now, however, like I said, Abure's tenure expired on the 8th of June 2024. From the 8th of June 2024 to the 8th to the today's 11th, if I'm right, 11th of April 2025, 8 months. Are you saying that Labour Party officials are expected to pay monies to Abure, whose tenure expired 8 months ago? Or is Abure saying Labour Party should have waited for him and his criminal gangs after 8 months of expiration of their tenure for them to know who registers and who does not register with the party? So, dear comrade, you see, Abure has no locus. Abure is not in a position to determine what happens to the Labour Party. Abure's tenure expired 8th of June 2024. From that day, Abure has no bearing, he has no stand, he has no locus. And however, even the judgment he claimed he got from the Federal High Court, which the Court of Appeal upheld, they were all thrown away for want of jurisdiction by the Supreme Court.
Now, INEC has promised to be transparent in the process. So what's your reaction to Apapa's new claim? I wouldn't call it new claim. He's been off for like a year right now. So what's your take?
Apapa has no claim anywhere under the sun. He has no claims. Remember, I led the faction with my other men in the team that took Abure to the Federal High Court based on his criminal indictment, and Abure was restrained by the FCT High Court on the 4th of April 2023 over perjury. Perjury means lying on oath or falsification of court details. Abure forged severally the Federal High Court affidavits. Abure forged the Federal High Court seal. Abure forged the TSA payment receipts of the Federal High Court in his desperate attempt to hoodwink Nigerians by forging signatures of elected delegates, people who won election from party primaries under INEC supervision. Abure, even after this candidate got judgment up to Supreme Court, Abure forged court order and placed in the INEC database, INEC portal, to substitute the validly nominated candidate in Ebonyi State. There were so many of them, but we have zeroed this matter for ease. Oko Eze Splendor. Abure forged his signature. Abure forged court document to override Supreme Court judgment that said this young man was a validly nominated candidate for the Labour Party in Ebonyi State. So it is that matter that was taken to court, that was taken to the investigation, Force Criminal Investigation Department, Nigeria Police Force Headquarters, that indictment was issued against them, not just Abure and his criminal gangs. And the FCT High Court, whose details were forged, restrained Abure from parading himself as national chairman, Umar Farouk Ibrahim as national secretary, Ojukwu Clement as national organizing secretary. But however, these criminal elements continue in parading themselves. They went to Asaba on the 17th and 18th of April, the same month, and conducted illegal NEC meeting and got an illegal 1-year extension. So the point I'm making to you now is to say, there is no locus, there is nothing Abure is saying. What Abure should wait for is criminal prosecution. That's what Abure should wait for.
Now, according to my sources, Abure's camp is expected to visit INEC office on Monday. Are you confident Usman's camp will come out fully as the leader?
First and foremost, Abure is used to be in contempt of court order. The FCTI court restrained Abure. Abure did not obey. That's a contempt of court. If you have listened to some of my interviews, like I said, Abure has co-conspirators in INEC. Because Abure has been indicted for prosecution, we will ensure, working with the Nigeria security architecture, to feature those criminal elements with whom they falsified court orders, with whom they carried out illegal NEC meetings in Asaba, for which Abure paraded himself. Are you getting it? So, Abure once more is in contempt of the Supreme Court judgment that nullified the Federal High Court and Court of Appeal judgment that gave Abure illegal chairmanship of the party. The Supreme Court said they had no jurisdiction, that this matter is an internal party matter which rests with the party National Executive Council. And the National Executive Council of the Labour Party, as at this time, was made up of only 9 people, because our tenure elapsed by the expiration of time. On the 8th of June 2024, Abure ceased from being the national chairman. All of us ceased from being members of the National Working Committee and the National Executive Council, remaining only those 9 men. Those 9 men, on the 4th of September 2024, appointed Senator Esther Ninadi Usman as national chairman, Senator Dalitu Wokocha as national secretary, which was reaffirmed just the day before yesterday on the 9th in Transcorp Hilton NEC meeting, where afterwards the NEC members were in a meeting with INEC to present the CTC of the Supreme Court judgment and to demand that Abure, who claimed that by court order his name was put in the INEC portal, that Abure's name be immediately removed, because the Supreme Court judgment, which is the greatest judgment in the land, except you appeal to God, have nullified the illegality with which Abure's name was in INEC portal. So that immediately Senator Ninadi Usman's name and Dalitu Wokocha be replaced. So Abure going to court, going to INEC, he has no claims anywhere. Like I said, we are still going to sue Abure for contempt of the Supreme Court judgment. So Abure is only piling to his list of criminal offenses, and we will urge the Supreme Court to come for Abure and his criminal gangs for reason of contempt of court. So if I thought they had anything against the judgment, there are procedures. So INEC already dissociated itself from Julius Abure on the grounds that 1, Abure's tenure expired in June 2024, and 2, that Abure violated the terms of settlement by not conducting congresses at the world levels in Nigeria, at the local government level, at the state level, that there was no delegate convention that elected delegates to vote in the national convention. And as such, there was no national convention. So that whatever Abure lay claim to on the 27th of March 2024 was illegal, null and void. That statement, INEC swore it on oath. And INEC said in that document that the neck of the party have powers to appoint caretaker committee member, item G or so. I will share those documents with you. Many for Abure, what is waiting for Abure is criminal prosecution. The Inspector General of Police authorized Abure's prosecution on the 25th of October 2023 to the Honorable Attorney General of Federation and Minister of Justice. Only recently, the party, in a press conference, demanded the commencement of that prosecution. Abure ought to be brought to court. So, God willing, from next week, the party intends to picket the office of the Attorney General of the Federation in perpetuity until the right thing is done.
Finally, before we go, comrade, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Your colleagues have extended an olive branch to Abure, but from all you've said, I don't think you are in agreement with that. Now, looking at the fact that 2027 is just by the corner, what's the way forward?
The Supreme Court judgment is explicit. Leadership matters and management issues are for internal mechanism. And the only internal mechanism for the party is the NEC. And the NEC took a decision on the 4th of September 2024, appointing Senator Esther Nenadi Usman as chairman and Senator Dalitu Wokocha as national secretary. So that is done and dusted. That said, to cap the matter on Apapa, I began to tell you that Apapa became acting national chairman on the 5th of Labour Party on the 5th of April 2023, when Julius Abure was restrained and his criminal gangs by the FCT High Court. So we continued in that struggle until Apapa abandoned that struggle and subjugated himself to Abure. So but for Apapa to have come up only recently to declare himself acting national chairman, that's unlawful, that's illegal. Apapa has no locus. Like I said, we were all elected from the same national convention. So if I'm telling you that our tenure expired finally after 5 years on the 8th of June 2024. So where is Apapa coming from? And where is he going to? So those are the erranties of an ant, because like I said, Apapa is somebody we worked with, but Apapa betrayed himself. Apapa sold himself for little or no cost to Abure. So why is he suddenly coming up now after everything is over? So that is his own luck, but Apapa has no grounds. Apapa has no claims. I hope you are listening to me so that Apapa can hear what I'm telling him. So Arabambi would have caused Apapa to do this damage to himself, which is most unfortunate. So however, the leadership is on the shoulders of Senator Esther Nenadi Usman and as national chairman and Senator Dalitu Wokocha as a national secretary. The much we can do also is to encourage them to bring everybody together, only to the extent to those who are willing and able and ready to be part of the process. So they will extend that olive branch, but what Abure should preoccupy himself with is the prosecution, the criminal prosecution ahead of him, not party activities. The Inspector General of Police has authorized the Attorney General to prosecute Abure for perjury, for forgery, for criminal conspiracy. Now I come to the issue of political parties and in opposition. You see, the reason the Labour Party lost the 2023 presidential election was because of Julius Abure. From my office as a national youth leader of Labour Party, we had put in place sufficient arrangement and structures on ground because we foresaw what was going to happen. We designed and built 3 ICT solutions: the Labour Party Situation Room mobile application, the Labour Party election collation and result display window, the Labour Party national mobilization platform with 6 portals. Now, all of these 3 solutions were meant to provide the ultimate answers, whereby polling unit agents will be able to record the polling unit results online real time and the result displayed. It took the INEC 5 days to announce that result. Those are things we would have done same time, same day, even before the last vote anywhere in Nigeria was cast. Few minutes afterwards, we'll have the last result and the world would have known. So all of this that the Labour Party went through are because of the greed of one man, Abure, Julius Abure. So Senator Nenadi Usman is sufficiently experienced, being a former minister, being a former senator, being a former House of Rep member, being a former this, former that. That's a woman with capacity, who clearly has the ability to carry everybody along. So I will encourage her, bring everybody on board as much as those who are willing. But for whoever will give the party any further problem, the rest assured that we are still here. We assured Abure when this struggle started, that at the end of this struggle, Abure will realize that he's a baby in this struggle. I think the world is now aware that Abure is truly a baby.
And many thanks for being with us on the show. Once again, Comrade Anselm Aragbe, former youth leader for the Labour Party.
My pleasure always.
And that's where we wrap up things on the show. It's just quite interesting to see how this turns out. I mean, they just help us make good programming for our TV if they don't put these issues to rest. But I guess INEC will definitely have to tell us who is the rightful leader of the Labour Party, talking about the position of chairmanship. But that's the much we can take on the show. Many thanks for watching, and special thanks to our guest who came earlier on set to be with us. Once again, my name is Moino Balagwu. That's all we can take for today. Bye.